Join me as we uncover a lost chapter of British dining history, the restaurants of the 1970s that shaped a nation's taste, yet have now vanished from our streets. From roadside diners to glamorous city eateries, these places were more than just food. They were a window into a time when dining out was an adventure and every meal told a story. Today, we travel back in time to remember the flavours, the people, and the unforgettable experience of Britain's lost restaurants. Our journey begins with Little Chef, one of Britain's most iconic roadside restaurants. The chain was founded in 1958 by Sam Alper, an entrepreneur who wanted to bring the American roadside diner experience to the UK. His idea was simple: small restaurants along major roads where travellers could stop for a quick warm meal. By the 1970s, Little Chef had become a familiar sight across Britain's highways. Drivers recognised the bright red signs instantly. Inside, customers could expect hearty meals like the full English breakfast, burgers, sausages, and endless cups of tea or coffee. For many families, stopping at Little Chef became part of the journey itself. Holiday road trips, long drives, and weekend outings often included a break at one of these cosy diners. The restaurant also introduced famous menu items like the Olympic breakfast, which became legendary among regular customers. At its peak, Little Chef operated hundreds of locations across the country. But as travel habits changed and competition increased, the chain began to struggle. One by one, locations closed. In 2018, the final Little Chef restaurant shut its doors, ending an era of British roadside dining that had lasted nearly 60 years. Next is Burney Inn, a restaurant chain that helped introduce many British diners to steakhouse dining. Burney Inn was founded in 1955 by brothers Frank and Aldo Burney, Italian immigrants who had settled in Britain. Their idea was to transform old pubs into stylish restaurants where people could enjoy steak dinners in a relaxed but elegant atmosphere. During the 1970s, Burney Inn became one of the most popular dining chains in the UK. For many families, eating at Burney Inn felt like a special occasion. People dressed up, booked tables, and looked forward to a menu that soon became famous. The classic Burney Inn meal often started with a prawn cocktail, followed by a juicy steak with chips, and ended with the beloved Black Forest Gâteau. This three-course combination became so popular that it practically defined British dining in that era. By the late 1980s, however, the restaurant industry was changing. Larger chains and modern casual dining brands began to replace the traditional steakhouse experience. Eventually, Burney Inn locations were converted into other restaurant brands, and the once famous name slowly disappeared. Another memorable restaurant from the era was the Golden Egg, a chain of cafeterias and coffee bars that became popular during the 1960s and 1970s. The first Golden Egg restaurant was opened in 1958 by Samuel Kay and his sons Philip Kay and Reginald Kay. The family wanted to create a modern coffeehouse-style restaurant that offered simple meals in a clean and welcoming environment. Unlike traditional British cafes, the Golden Egg tried to feel modern and efficient. The interiors were bright, the service was quick, and the menu offered easy favourites like eggs, sandwiches, light lunches, and coffee. For many office workers and shoppers, it became the perfect place to take a break during a busy day in the city. These restaurants also reflected a changing Britain. Dining out was becoming more casual and more frequent. People were beginning to enjoy restaurants not just for special occasions, but as part of daily life. Despite its popularity, the chain eventually faded as new competitors entered the market. Over time, locations closed and the brand quietly disappeared. Today, only a few photographs and memories remain of the Golden Egg. Travelling back to the highways of Britain, we come to Happy Eater, another roadside restaurant chain that competed directly with Little Chef. Happy Eater was launched in 1973 by the Trust House Fort Group, a large hospitality company founded by hotelier Charles Fort. The idea was to create family-friendly restaurants where travellers could stop for affordable meals in a cheerful environment. Happy Eater locations were easy to recognise thanks to their bright signage and welcoming interiors. Families driving across the country often stopped there for breakfast, pancakes, burgers, or a quick cup of tea. Children especially enjoyed the friendly atmosphere and simple menu choices. During the 1970s and 1980s, Happy Eater became a familiar sight along Britain's major roads. But as roadside dining evolved and competition increased, many locations were eventually converted into other restaurant brands. By the 1990s, the Happy Eater name had largely disappeared from Britain's highways. Another major name in British dining during the 1970s was Wimpy. The brand was originally created in the United States but expanded internationally. In Britain, the chain was developed by Eddie Gold, who introduced Wimpy restaurants to the UK in 1954. By the 1970s, Wimpy had become one of Britain's most popular burger restaurants. Unlike modern fast food outlets, many Wimpy locations were sit-down restaurants, where customers could order from a menu and enjoy a leisurely meal. Families gathered there for burgers, fries, milkshakes, and desserts. The relaxed dining experience made Wimpy feel more like a diner than a fast food restaurant. For many young people growing up in the 1970s, a trip to Wimpy was a treat. However, as global fast food chains began expanding into Britain, the market changed dramatically. Many traditional Wimpy restaurants closed or were converted into other formats. Although a few Wimpy locations still exist today, the classic sit-down restaurants of the 1970s have mostly disappeared. During the 1970s, another unique restaurant concept appeared on British high streets, Spud You Like. The chain was founded in 1974 by Barbara Leggett, David Leggett, and Kim Cully. Their idea was simple but clever. Serve baked potatoes with a wide variety of toppings. Customers could choose from fillings like cheese, beans, tuna, or coleslaw, creating a meal that was both affordable and satisfying. At the time, this concept felt fresh and modern. Spud You Like offered something different from burgers or traditional British meals. Students, office workers, and shoppers quickly embraced the idea of a quick, customizable potato meal. The chain expanded across shopping centres and busy city areas, becoming a familiar name throughout the UK. However, changing tastes and increasing competition eventually led to the closure of many locations. Today, only a few traces of Spud You Like remain from what was once a popular British food chain. In the 1970s, an American company attempted to bring a new twist to one of Britain's most traditional foods, fish and chips. The chain was called Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips, founded in 1969 in Columbus, Ohio, by the National Fast Food Corporation. Key figures behind the brand included businessman Dave Thomas, along with executives S. Robert Davis and Ellis Hartzog. The restaurant was named after the British actor Arthur Treacher, who was famous for portraying polite English characters in Hollywood films. Although the chain carried his name and likeness, Treacher himself was not directly involved in running the business. The goal was to create a fast food version of Britain's beloved fish and chips, packaged in a modern and recognisable restaurant brand. During the 1970s, the chain expanded rapidly and even opened locations in the United Kingdom. The restaurant served battered fish, chips, and simple sides in a clean, modern fast food setting. The idea was to deliver a consistent version of the classic dish, prepared quickly and served in a standardised environment. While the concept proved very successful in the United States, it struggled to compete in Britain. After all, the country already had thousands of local fish and chip shops, many of them family-run businesses that had served their communities for generations. These traditional shops had loyal customers, local reputations, and recipes perfected over decades. Eventually, the UK locations closed, and the brand disappeared from the British market. By the 1980s, Arthur Treacher's presence in Britain had faded, leaving behind only a short chapter in the long story of British fish and chip culture. Today, the brand survives in small pockets of the United States, but in Britain it remains a curious reminder of a time when an American chain tried to reinvent one of the nation's most iconic dishes. I know you're going to love the next story. It's about a restaurant that helped bring pizza to Britain long before it was everywhere. That restaurant was Pizzaland. The chain was launched in 1970 by the hospitality group Grand Metropolitan, which wanted to introduce Italian-style pizza dining to the growing casual restaurant market in the United Kingdom. During the 1970s, pizza was still relatively new to many British diners. Restaurants like Pizzaland helped introduce the idea of sitting down with friends or family and sharing freshly baked pizza in a relaxed setting. The restaurants were known for their warm interiors, simple menus, and affordable prices. Customers could choose from classic toppings like pepperoni, mushrooms, or ham, often paired with pasta dishes and salads. For many young people and families, Pizzaland became a fun and modern place to eat out. It felt different from traditional British cafes and pubs, offering a taste of international cuisine that was becoming more popular across the country. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, the chain expanded with locations in major cities and shopping areas. However, as competition increased and the restaurant market continued to evolve, many Pizzaland locations were eventually converted into branches of Pizza Hut during the 1990s. Today, the Pizzaland name has disappeared from Britain's high streets, but for many people who grew up in that era, it remains a nostalgic reminder of the early days of pizza dining in the UK. For many people in Britain, eating out in the 1960s and 1970s often meant visiting a place called ABC Restaurant. The name actually stood for the Aerated Bread Company, but most customers simply called it ABC. The company was founded in 1862 by Dr. John Dalglish, a doctor and inventor who created a new way of making bread without yeast. His idea used carbon dioxide to aerate the dough, making bread cleaner and faster to produce. At first, the company focused on baking bread, but just 2 years later, in 1864, ABC opened its first tea room in London. The idea quickly became popular, and more tea rooms began appearing across the city. Over time, these tea rooms turned into a large chain of casual restaurants. By the early 20th century, ABC had hundreds of locations across Britain. By the 1970s, ABC restaurants were known for their cafeteria-style service. Customers would walk along a counter, pick their food, place it on a tray, and pay at the end. It was quick, simple, and perfect for people on a busy lunch break. The menu was basic but comforting. Visitors often ordered tea, toast, eggs, pies, sandwiches, and puddings. It was the kind of place where workers could grab a quick meal or families could rest after shopping in the city. Another reason ABC became popular was the atmosphere. The restaurants were bright, clean, and welcoming. They were not fancy, but they felt reliable and familiar. However, the dining world began to change in the late 20th century. Fast food chains and modern cafes started spreading across Britain, offering new styles of food and faster service. Slowly, ABC restaurants faded away. Many locations closed, and others were replaced by new businesses. By the end of the 20th century, the once famous chain had almost completely disappeared. Today, ABC restaurants are remembered mostly through old photographs and stories. But for many people who lived through those decades, the name still brings back memories of tea, simple meals, and busy British cafes. If you visited London during the 1980s or 1990s, there was a good chance you saw a restaurant called Garfunkel's. The chain was founded in 1979 by restaurateur Philip Kay. Before starting Garfunkel's, Kay had already built experience in the restaurant world by working with other popular chains. His idea was simple. He wanted to create a restaurant where both tourists and locals could enjoy classic British food in a comfortable and friendly setting. The first Garfunkel's opened in Covent Garden in London, a busy area full of theatres, shops, and visitors from around the world. Inside, the restaurants had a warm and casual style. Wooden tables, bright signs, and simple decor made the place feel relaxed and welcoming. The menu focused on British favourites. Customers could order dishes like fish and chips, shepherd's pie, burgers, and full English breakfasts. For many tourists visiting London, Garfunkel's became one of the easiest places to try traditional British food. During the 1980s and 1990s, the chain expanded quickly. At its peak, Garfunkel's had over 40 restaurants across London and other parts of the UK. But as the restaurant industry changed, competition grew stronger. New international chains, trendy cafes, and modern dining concepts began attracting younger customers. Over time, many Garfunkel's locations closed their doors. Some restaurants were replaced by new chains, while others turned into completely different businesses. By the 2020s, most of the restaurants had disappeared, leaving behind memories of a once popular London dining chain. Still, for many visitors and locals, Garfunkel's remains a reminder of a time when exploring London often ended with a plate of fish and chips in a warm and busy restaurant. The restaurants of 1970s Britain tell us something important about the past. They remind us that food is more than just a meal. It reflects culture, travel, family traditions, and the way people connect with each other. From the roadside comfort of Little Chef to the lively dining rooms of Garfunkel's, these restaurants help shape a generation's dining experiences. Although the buildings may be gone and the signs have disappeared, the memories remain. And in those memories, these restaurants will always have a place at the table.